I stood outside the heavy oak doors of the country club, clutching a small, blue gift bag. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My first grandson was coming into the world. But through the glass, I saw them. Richard and Victoria, my son's in-laws, were laughing. They looked like kings and queens holding court. Then, Richard saw me. He didn't smile. He walked to the door, opened it just a crack, and blocked my path. "Thomas," he said, his voice cold and smooth like polished stone. "What are you doing here?" I looked past him. I saw my son, David. He was standing by the punch bowl. He saw me, but he looked down at his shoes. That hurt more than the door in my face. "I'm here for the baby shower, Richard," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm the grandfather," Richard chuckled, a dry, ugly sound. "Look at you, Thomas. Grease under your fingernails, a cheap suit from a thrift store. You don't fit in here. You'll only embarrass David. Go home." Friend, before I tell you about the one phone call that turned their perfect party into a living nightmare, do me a kindness. Tap subscribe so you're here to see what happens when they finally push a good man too far. It helps more than you know. I gripped the gift bag tighter. "David invited me," I whispered. Richard leaned in close, his expensive cologne choking me. "And we uninvited you. Leave. Now." He slammed the door in my face. I stood there in the cold, the silence ringing in my ears. I wasn't sad anymore. I was done. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my old, cracked phone. I dialed a number I hadn't used in 10 years. I walked back to my old truck, but I didn't drive away. I sat in the driver's seat, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I wasn't shaking from fear. I was shaking from rage. For 5 years, I had let them treat me like dirt. I let them call me the janitor. I let them make fun of my small house and my old clothes. I did it for David. I wanted him to have peace. But today, they took away my right to see my own family. That was a line they should not have crossed. I looked at the phone in my hand. The person on the other end answered on the first ring. "Mr. Miller?" the voice asked. It was sharp and professional. "I thought you retired." I looked at the country club, glowing with golden light. "I did," I said, "but I need a favor." "A big one." The voice paused. "Name it, sir." I took a deep breath. "The country club on 5th Street. Who owns the debt on it?" The voice typed for a few seconds. "A holding company, sir. But it's up for sale. The bank wants to liquidate it by noon today." I looked at the clock. It was 11:55 a.m. "Buy it," I said. "Buy the debt. Buy the building. Buy the catering company servicing the party inside. Consider it done, sir. What are your orders?" I walked back to the entrance. The valet guy looked at me like I was a stray dog. "I thought you were leaving," he sneered. "I forgot something," I said. I pushed past him and threw open the doors. The music stopped. The chatter died. Richard turned around, his face turning red. "I told you to leave!" he shouted. The whole room went quiet. All the rich guests in their fancy clothes stared at me. David finally looked up. "Dad, please," he said, his voice weak. "Just go. Don't make a scene." I looked at my son. He looked so small. He was terrified of Richard. He was terrified of losing the money, the status, the easy life. "I'm not making a scene, David," I said calmly. "I'm just waiting." Victoria marched over, her pearls clicking together. Waiting for what? The police? Because that's who I'm calling. She pulled out her phone, her finger hovering over the screen. She wanted to see me dragged out in cuffs. She wanted to break me. "Go ahead, Victoria," I said softly. "Call them." She glared at me, confused by my lack of fear. But before she could dial, the music system let out a loud screech and died completely. The room was dead silent. No jazz music, no clinking glasses, just the heavy, awkward breathing of 100 rich people. The lights flickered once, then dimmed to half power. "What is going on?" Richard barked, looking around for a waiter. "We paid a fortune for this venue. Fix the lights." A manager came running out from the back. He looked pale. He looked like he had seen a ghost. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carrington," the manager stammered. We have a problem with the account." Richard laughed, but it sounded nervous. "Don't be stupid. Put it on my tab. I'm Richard Carrington." The manager shook his head. "The system has locked you out, sir. It says the credit line has been suspended by the new owner." Richard froze. "New owner? What are you talking about? Old man Jenkins owns this place." The manager wiped sweat from his forehead. "Not as of 2 minutes ago, sir. The building was sold. And the new owner has issued an immediate stop service order for non-payment." Richard turned to look at me, his eyes wide with confusion. "This is ridiculous," Victoria shrieked. "Pay them, Richard. Use the black card." Richard pulled out his wallet, his hands trembling. He handed the card to the manager. The manager ran it on a portable machine. Beep, declined. The sound was loud in the quiet room. "Try it again," Richard yelled. Beep, declined. A murmur went through the crowd. I saw people whispering behind their hands. "I don't understand," Richard muttered. "There's a limit of 50,000 on that card." The manager looked at the machine. "It's not over the limit, sir. The card has been canceled." Richard dropped the card. It hit the floor with a pathetic plastic click. He looked at his guests, his friends. They were all looking at him like he had a disease. "Is there a problem, Richard?" a man in a gray suit asked. "Do we need to start a collection plate?" The room erupted in cruel laughter. Richard turned purple. He was proud. He was arrogant. And he was currently broke. I took a step forward. "Sounds like you're in trouble, Richard," I said. He spun on me, his eyes full of hate. "You did this. Somehow, you did this." "Don't be crazy, Richard," I said, keeping my voice low. "I'm just a janitor, remember? How could I cancel your credit cards?" He pointed a shaking finger at my chest. "You cursed us! You brought your bad luck in here!" It was sad. He couldn't accept that his own failures were catching up to him. He had to blame the poor man. He had to blame the outsider. David walked over to his father-in-law. "Richard, maybe it's a bank error. Let's just go to the house. We can finish the party there," Victoria gasped. "The house? It's a mess. We can't take these people there." I knew why she didn't want to go to the house. It wasn't because it was messy. It was because the furniture was rented. It was because the mansion was mortgaged to the hilt. "We are staying right here," Victoria declared. She turned to the manager. "How much? How much to turn the lights back on?" The manager looked at his clipboard. "The outstanding balance for the rental, the catering, and the security deposit is $25,000, cash or certified check. Immediately." Victoria looked at her friends, waiting for someone to offer help, but everyone looked away. The silence stretched out. It was painful. These people called themselves friends. But the moment the money dried up, they vanished. Richard looked defeated. He looked old. For a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered the door slamming in my face. I remembered 5 years of insults. I cleared my throat. "I can pay it," I said. Richard's head snapped up. "You?" He laughed, but it was weak. "You don't have $25, Thomas, let alone 25,000. I didn't say a word. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a checkbook. It was a plain, blue checkbook. Nothing fancy. I walked over to a high-top table and uncapped a pen. "I have some savings," I lied. "From the garage." I wrote the date. I wrote the amount. I signed my name. I tore the check out with a crisp rip. I held it out to Richard. "Here, take it. For the baby." Richard stared at the check, his greed warring with his pride. Richard reached for the check, his hand shaking. He was going to take money from the man he despised. "Fine," he grunted. "I'll pay you back next week." I pulled the check back just an inch. "No," I said. "There's a condition." Richard froze. "What?" "I want you to tell everyone the truth," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried to every corner of the room. "Tell them you're broke. Tell them the janitor is saving your party. Say it loud enough for the back row to hear." Victoria gasped. "We will never do that. We have dignity." "Dignity doesn't pay the light bill, Victoria," I said. I looked at David. He was watching me with a strange expression. He had never seen me like this. He had never seen me take control. I held the check out again. "Say it, Richard, or the party is over." Richard looked at the check, then at the waiting manager. He took a deep breath. Richard's face twisted. He looked at his wealthy friends. He looked at the check. Then he slapped my hand away. The check fluttered to the floor. "Keep your dirty money!" Richards fluttered to the floor. "Keep your dirty money!" he screamed. "I'd rather rot than owe you a dime." He turned to the manager. "Get out of my face! We're leaving!" He grabbed Victoria's arm. "Everyone! The party is moving to the bistro down the street. My treat." It was a lie. He couldn't afford a taco, let alone a bistro. But he couldn't let me win. He couldn't let the servant be the master. I picked up the check and folded it calmly. "You're making a mistake, Richard," I said. "The only mistake was letting your son marry my daughter." He spat back. "Come on, Sarah. David, we're leaving." Sarah, my daughter-in-law, looked at me. She had tears in her eyes. She put a hand on her stomach. She didn't move. "Dad," she said to Richard. "Stop, please." Richard stopped. He looked at his daughter. "Are you coming or not?" "I can't," Sarah whispered. "I'm tired, Dad. I can't run around pretending anymore." Richard's face went pale. "Pretending? What are you talking about?" Sarah looked at David, then at me. "We know, Dad. We know about the loans. We know the house is in foreclosure." The crowd gasped. This was the bomb I had been waiting for, but I didn't expect Sarah to drop it. Richard looked like he had been punched. You told her?" He hissed at me. "I didn't say a word," I replied. "You think your kids are stupid, Richard? They see the letters. They hear the phone calls." Victoria started to cry. It was a fake, dramatic cry. "How could you do this to us? On this day?" she wailed. "We did everything for you." David stepped in front of his wife. "No," he said firmly. "You did everything for you. You wanted the big party to show off. You didn't care about the baby." Richard straightened his jacket. "Fine. If you stay with him, you're out of the will. You get nothing." "There is no will, Richard!" David shouted. It was the first time he had raised his voice in years. "There is nothing to leave us! It's all debt!" Richard stumbled back. The truth was out. The illusion was shattered. He looked around the room. His friends were already grabbing their coats. They were fleeing the sinking ship. I have investments, Richard stammered. I have a deal closing on Monday. I stepped forward again. No, you don't, I said. The deal with the chaotic group? They pulled out yesterday. Richard stared at me. How? How do you know about that? That was private. I walked over to the manager. Turn the lights back up, please, and bring some sparkling cider. The manager nodded instantly. Yes, Mr. Miller. Richard looked between me and the manager. Why is he listening to you? I smiled. Because he knows who signs his paycheck. I don't understand, Victoria sobbed. You're a mechanic. You fix transmissions. I was a mechanic, I corrected, 40 years ago. Then I bought the shop. Then I bought 10 more. Then I started investing in commercial real estate. I looked around the lavish ballroom. I bought this building this morning, Richard. I own the debt you couldn't pay. I own the mortgage on your house. I own the loan on your car. The silence was different now. It wasn't awkward. It was shocked. David was staring at me with his mouth open. Dad? Is that true? I looked at my son. I wanted you to build your own life, David. I didn't want you to rely on my money. I wanted you to be strong. I looked at Richard. But I won't let these people drag you down into their hole. Richard fell into a chair. He looked small. He looked broken. But he wasn't done yet. Richard looked up at me. The arrogance was gone. In its place was pure, naked fear. Thomas, he said, his voice shaking. We're family. You wouldn't throw us out on the street, would you? It was pathetic. 5 minutes ago, I was trash. Now, I was his savior. Family? I asked. You slammed the door in my face, Richard. You told me I wasn't good enough to see my grandson. I was stressed. Richard pleaded. I didn't mean it. Please, Thomas. The foreclosure. If we lose the house, we have nowhere to go. Victoria grabbed my hand. Her palms were sweaty. We can change. We'll treat you with respect. Just give us a chance. I pulled my hand away. It felt dirty. Respect isn't something you buy when you need a favor, Victoria. It's how you treat people when you don't need anything at all. I turned to the manager. Clear the room. Everyone except the family leaves. The guests hurried out. They didn't say goodbye to Richard or Victoria. They just wanted to get away from the failure. Soon, it was just me, David, Sarah, and the two of them. The room felt huge. So that's it? Richard asked bitterly. You're going to destroy us to teach us a lesson? I looked at Sarah. She looked exhausted. She didn't need this stress. The baby didn't need this. I had to make a choice. I could crush them. I could take everything they had and leave them with nothing. It would feel good. It would be justice. But then I looked at David. He was holding Sarah's hand. If I destroyed her parents, would she ever forgive me? Would I lose my son again? I felt a heavy weight in my chest. This was the moment. The wounded lion had to decide, attack or protect. I took a deep breath and looked Richard in the eye. I'm not going to evict you. Richard let out a massive sigh of relief. Oh, thank God. Thank you, Thomas. I knew you were a reasonable man. He started to stand up, his confidence already coming back. We can work out a payment plan. I have some contacts in. Sit down, I barked. Richard sat. I'm not evicting you, I said. Because the house isn't yours anymore. It's mine. I foreclosed on it 10 minutes ago. Richard's eyes bulged. But you said, you can live there, I said. As tenants, you will pay rent. You will pay it to David. I pointed to my son. David is now the landlord. You answer to him. If you are late, he has the power to kick you out. If you are rude to him, he kicks you out. David looked at me, shocked. Dad, I can't. You can, I said firmly. You are the head of this family now, David, not him. Richard looked at David. For the first time in his life, he had to look up to my son. Richard put his head in his hands. I did it for her, he whispered. We all looked at him. What? I borrowed the money, he said, tears leaking through his fingers. I did it for Sarah. I wanted her to marry well. I wanted her to have the life I never had. I thought if I looked rich, she would meet a rich man. He looked at David. I was disappointed when she chose you, David. I thought she was throwing her life away on a mechanic's son. He looked at me. I didn't hate you, Thomas. I feared you. You reminded me of where I came from. I grew up poor. I swore I'd never go back. It was a moment of truth. He wasn't a monster. He was a scared little boy playing dress-up. It didn't excuse what he did, but it made sense. Being poor isn't a sin, Richard, I said softly. Being a liar is. But there is one more thing you need to know, Sarah said, stepping forward. I knew, Sarah said. Richard looked at her. You knew what? I knew you were broke, she said. And I knew Thomas had money. Richard looked confused. How? He never told anyone. He told me, Sarah said. 3 years ago, when David lost his job, Thomas paid our rent for 6 months anonymously. He told me to never tell David because he wanted David to feel independent. She looked at me with gratitude. I reached out to Thomas last week, she continued. I told him you were in trouble, Dad. I asked him to help you. Richard looked at me. You knew we were in trouble before today? Yes, I said. I was going to help you quietly. I was going to pay off the debt and never say a word. I pointed to the door. Until you slammed that door in my face. I tried to save you, Richard. You forced me to conquer you. The party was over. The balloons were sagging. The food was cold. Richard stood up. He walked over to me. He didn't look like a king anymore. He looked like a man who had lost everything and found something else. He held out his hand. I don't deserve your help, he said. And I don't deserve to live in that house. I looked at his hand. I could refuse it. I could walk away and leave them to figure it out. But I looked at Sarah's belly. My grandson was in there. He needed a family. A whole family. Flawed, messy, crazy, but whole. I shook his hand. It was a firm grip. You're right, I said. You don't deserve it. But David does. I turned to David. The car is out back. I think it's time we went home. David smiled. A real, big smile. Yeah, Dad, let's go home. But as we walked toward the exit, my phone rang again. I stopped. I didn't recognize the number. It wasn't my business manager. It wasn't the bank. I answered it. Hello? Is this Thomas Miller? A voice asked. It was a woman's voice. Young? Scared? Yes, I said. Who is this? You don't know me, she said. But I think you're my grandfather. I froze. I stopped walking. David stopped too. Dad, what is it? I'm sorry, I said into the phone. I only have one son, David. My father's name was David, she said. But he died before I was born. My mother said his father was Thomas Miller. Please, I have nowhere else to go. My heart hammered in my chest. David was alive. He was standing right next to me. Who was this girl? Was this a scam? Or was there a part of my past I had completely forgotten? I looked at David. I have to take this, I whispered. David, I said to the girl. My son David is standing right here. There was silence on the line. Then, a sob. No, she said. Not that David. My dad. He was your first son. The one who ran away. The phone almost fell from my hand. I had a son before David. Michael. He ran away when he was 16. I searched for him for 10 years. I never found him. I thought he was dead. I buried an empty casket. Michael? I whispered. Yes, the girl cried. His name was Michael. He changed it to David to hide. He died last week. He told me to find you. The world spun. I grabbed the wall to keep from falling. I had won the battle with Richard. I had saved my family. But now, a ghost had risen from the grave. Where are you? I asked. I'm coming for you. I hung up the phone. My face must have been pale because David grabbed my arm. Dad, what's wrong? Who was that? I looked at him. I had never told David about Michael. It was too painful. David grew up thinking he was an only child. How could I explain that he had a brother he never knew? A brother who died thinking I hated him? David, I said, my voice cracking. There is something I haven't told you. Something about your mother and me. Richard and Victoria were watching us, sensing the shift in the air. The power had moved again. I wasn't the strong billionaire anymore. I was a grieving father. I need to go, I said. Take Sarah home. I have to. I have to handle this. Handle what? David demanded. Dad, don't shut me out. Not anymore. I looked at him, tears in my eyes. I have to go meet your niece. I left them there. I jumped into my truck and drove. The GPS led me to a rundown motel on the edge of town. It was raining now, matching the storm inside me. Michael, my boy. He had been alive all this time. Why didn't he call? Why did he hide? I thought about the money. I had billions. I could have saved him. I could have given him the best doctors, the best life. But I didn't know. My wealth was useless. It couldn't buy back time. I pulled into the motel lot. A girl was sitting on the curb, shivering. She looked just like him. She had his eyes. My wife's eyes. I parked the truck and stepped out into the rain. She looked up. She saw an old man in a cheap suit. She didn't see a billionaire. She saw hope. I walked toward her, my heart breaking with every step. Are you Thomas? She asked, her teeth chattering. I took off my jacket and wrapped it around her. Yes, I said. I'm Thomas. What's your name? Lily, she said. Lily, I repeated. My mother's name. Michael had named her after his grandmother. He hadn't forgotten us. He was sick, Lily said, wiping her eyes. He didn't want you to know. He was ashamed. He said he failed you. Failed me? I choked out. He was my son. He could never fail me. I hugged her. She was thin, too thin. She smelled like rain and poverty. I made a vow right then. Richard and Victoria thought they had seen my power. They hadn't seen anything yet. I would burn the world down to keep this girl safe. Come with me, I said. You're never sleeping in a place like this again. I drove Lily back to my house. It wasn't a mansion. It was a simple, sturdy brick house. The house Michael grew up in. She looked around the living room. He talked about this place, she whispered. He said it smelled like sawdust and coffee. I made her tea. We sat in silence. I had so many questions, but I couldn't ask them yet. I texted David, "Come to the house. Bring Sarah. We need to talk." Half an hour later, David walked in. He saw Lily sitting on the couch. He looked at me, confused. "Dad? Who is this?" "David," I said. "This is Lily. She is Michael's daughter." "Who is Michael?" David asked. I took a deep breath. "Michael was your brother." David's face went blank. What? We sat there for hours. I told them everything. The fight, the running away, the years of searching, the private investigators who failed. David listened, silent. He looked at Lily. He saw the resemblance, too. "He was older?" David asked. "By 5 years," I said. David stood up and walked over to Lily. He didn't ask for a DNA test. He didn't ask for proof. He just hugged her. "Welcome home," he said. Sarah was crying again. But these were good tears. The family was growing. It was broken, stitched together with scars and secrets, but it was growing. "Where is he buried?" I asked Lily. "The county cemetery," she said. It's a pauper's grave. I didn't have money for a headstone." Rage flared in me again. My son in a pauper's grave while I sat on a mountain of gold. "Not anymore," I said. "We're going to get him tomorrow." We moved Michael 3 days later. We buried him next to his mother, under the big oak tree on the hill. It was a private service, just us, and, surprisingly, Richard and Victoria. They stood at the back, respectful. They didn't make it about them. They brought flowers. When the service was over, Richard walked up to me. "I'm sorry for your loss, Thomas," he said. He meant it. "Thank you, Richard," I said. "This girl," Richard said, nodding at Lily. "She needs clothes. She needs school. Victoria knows the head mistress at St. Jude's. It was a peace offering. He was trying to be useful. He was trying to be part of the solution." "That would be good," I said. "Thank you." We stood there. 2 grandfathers. 1 real billionaire. 1 fake. But in the graveyard, money didn't matter. Only legacy mattered. And I had almost lost mine. Life settled down. Richard and Victoria moved back into their house, paying rent to David every month on the 1st. They stopped throwing lavish parties. They started babysitting. They weren't perfect, but they were trying. Lily moved into Michael's old room. I heard laughter in the house again. It was the best sound in the world. One night, I sat on the porch with David. "You know," David said, "I used to be ashamed of your job. When I was a kid, I wanted you to wear a suit like Richard." "I know," I said. "I was an idiot," David said. "The suit doesn't make the man. The hands do." He looked at my rough, scarred hands. "You built all this with these." "I built it for you," I said. "And for Lily. And for the baby." "Speaking of the baby," David smiled. "Sarah's water broke 10 minutes ago." We rushed to the hospital. The same hospital where Michael was born. The same hospital where my wife died. It was a place of ghosts. But tonight, it was a place of life. We waited in the hallway. Me, Lily, Richard, Victoria. We paced back and forth. Richard handed me a coffee from the vending machine. "It's terrible," he warned. "I know," I said. "I used to fix these machines." We laughed. It was a short, dry laugh, but it was shared. Then the door opened. David walked out. He was crying. He was smiling. He looked like he had seen God. "It's a boy," he whispered. "Everyone is okay." We cheered. Victoria hugged Lily. Richard shook my hand. I walked into the room. Sarah was holding a small bundle. She looked tired, but beautiful. "Come meet your grandson, Thomas," she said. I walked over to the bed. The baby was tiny. He had dark hair and a scrunched-up face. He opened his eyes. They were blue, bright blue. "He's perfect," I whispered. "We picked a name," Sarah said. She looked at David. David nodded. "We wanted to honor the family, both sides." "His name is Michael," David said. "Michael Richard Miller." Richard gasped behind me. He started to cry. He didn't expect it. He didn't deserve it. But that's what family is. Grace. I touched the baby's cheek. "Michael, my second chance." "Hello, Michael," I said. "I'm your grandpa, and I'm going to tell you a story." I looked around the room, at my son, my new daughter, my granddaughter, my complicated in-laws. I realized then that I wasn't the wounded lion anymore. I was just the lion. I walked out of the hospital into the cool night air. The stars were bright. I thought about the door slamming in my face at the country club. It felt like a lifetime ago. That door closing was the best thing that ever happened to me. It woke me up. It forced me to stop hiding. It brought me my son, my granddaughter, and my self-respect. I got into my old truck. I still drove it. I didn't need a Rolls-Royce. I knew who I was. I started the engine. It rumbled to life, a sound I knew better than my own heartbeat. I had one more stop to make. The lawyer's office. I had to update my will. I had 3 heirs now, and a lot of work to do. Friend, thank you for staying with me to the very end. If you believe that a man's worth isn't in his wallet, but in his character, and if you believe that true strength is about protecting the ones you love, then please tap subscribe and join our community. You won't want to miss the stories we share next. I've picked a story just for you. I hope to see you there.